What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Watchtower podcast. Glad you guys could be here. Glad you guys could join me. Oh man, hopefully you guys are having a good Tuesday. Hopefully everything is doing all right for you. So, welcome to the Watchtower podcast, the non-Jehovah's Witness podcast. Got to make sure we know what's going on there. Glad you guys could join me. This is what we do. We go through and we watch what's going on because we know the Lord's return is so soon. And I don't know about you guys, but I am so ready to get out of here. So glad you guys could join me. Glad you guys could be here. Right off the bat, I got to ask if possible, if you can throw a prayer up for me. I am losing a fight with a cold right now. It started coming in about yesterday afternoon, and as the day has been going on, it's I'm losing the fight. So if you guys can you say a prayer for me? We're still gonna do this. We're still gonna do what we do, though. We're not gonna let that stop me. So, but yeah, glad you guys can join me. Glad you guys are here. Let's see here. Let's see what the chat is going on. Let's see what the chat is. There is so many people in here. Not even my chat thing can keep up. Everything is just jumping like crazy. So let's go ahead and get you guys involved with this. Again, I apologize if I can't get all of you in here. There's just so many people. But let's just start right here with Rod Hawkins rolling on the floor laughing like crazy. Glad to see you, Rod. Glad you're here. We've got Jazz Tastica. Jazz is here. What's going on, Jazz? Good to see you. Heather's Hearth. Love the disclaimer. I'm not sure what disclaimer I put up, but glad you liked it. Cisco Duck, what's going on? Cisco Duck, how's the Cisco kid? Hopefully you guys are doing all right. Bible Explorer. I don't think I've seen you here, so glad to see you here. We've got Miss T, so ready. Yeah, I'm ready too, because I think you're ready for the Lord to come. Carly, good to see you, Carly. Glad you are here. We've got Hannah Lore. I think this is the first time I've seen you here, but I know I've seen you on other chats, so definitely glad to see you there. Caroline, what's going on, Caroline? What's going on? Heather's Hearth, glad to meet you, or not meet you. Glad to see you. Oh boy, this is going to be a long one if I can't get my brain to work properly. So Farah, what's going on? Farah, glad to see you. Lori is here. Always good to see you, Lori. And my chat just reset on me because you guys are blowing it up. Sarah, looks like you've been sick for 5 weeks too. Man, I'll definitely be praying for your health for sure. If you guys can, say a prayer for Sarah as well, for her to get better. Jules, always good to see you, Jules. Beautiful cat picture you have going on there. Lisa's here. Good to see you. Glad to see you all guys here. Again, I apologize. I can't get to all of you. There's just so many people blowing up my chat. So glad to see you guys. And then Rev, yeah, great interview with Pablo. Awesome. Glad that you enjoyed that. Yeah, if you guys can, check out the recent episode of on Pablo's channel, Serpents and Doves. I had the pleasure of joining him over there. So if you guys can, make sure you show some love for Pablo if you do not know who he is. So, but let's see here, make sure this is all right. Okay, so so welcome to the Watchtower podcast, where we watch what's going on, kind of taking news and seeing what's going on, because we know the Lord's return is so soon. And this is episode 89. Show me the money. Don't show me the money. That has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that we're going to be kind of talking about money all throughout this thing and what's involved with all the different things. We've got stuff that's going on with water, what's going on in the water. There's some news that come out. That's my wonderful English. There's some news that has come out regarding a bunch of things with water, so we're going to take a look at that. Then we've got some other stuff. Let's see. We're going to talk about what's going on with the Fed Now thing. I know there's a lot of, I don't want to use the word misinformation, but there's a lot of bad information circling around the Prophecy Watcher community, where some people are led to believe that Fed Now is a CBDC. I want to set the record straight and let you guys know that it is not a CBDC, but it does have to do with that. So we'll go ahead and talk about that. And then we're going to kind of go a little bit back in history. We're going to talk about maybe what's going on with some CIA stuff that is still going on today. And then If you guys didn't know, I put out a Rumble exclusive about Trump. And right off the bat, I would let everybody know we don't talk politics too much on this channel. But when we do, it's something that I think we should talk about. And so I'm going to kind of expand on that Trump video just a little bit. And then also, if you guys haven't seen Pastor JD Farag's recent prophecy update from Sunday, I'm going to piggyback off of that a little bit because I think there seems to be a moment where people are starting to get the idea of what's going on with the political game, and I kind of want to kind of jump along with that. I know JD is getting some heat on his takes on that, but JD and I have always seemed to be almost 100% on the same page on pretty much everything. So, but we're going to talk about all that stuff. We're going to make it through. This is going to be a loaded episode, so there might be some points that we jam through. I apologize, but there's a lot of stuff, and I don't want to keep you guys here forever. Now, before we get into that, we've got some housekeeping to take care of.
Housekeeping?
No, thank you. Sleeping.
Housekeeping?
All right. So not a whole lot as far as housekeeping to take care of. Like I said earlier, if you guys haven't checked it out, I was a guest on Pablo's lovely Offhand podcast. So go and check that out if you haven't already. We were talking about living on borrowed time and kind of the things that are going on right now. So go and check that out if you haven't. Also, if you can, like, share, and subscribe. Get this out to as many people as you can. It's not about butts and seats. It's not about views, but it is about getting Jesus to people and people to Jesus, as JD would say. So it is very important that we get this out to as many people as we can, because in these times, this close to the end, and I can't stress how much I mean this close to the end, we've got to make sure that we are warning people and getting the gospel out to people. So if you can, like, share, subscribe. Also, follow me on Rumble, Odyssey, and Telegram. Rumble and Odyssey are my backup channels when the inevitable boot off of YouTube comes, because I know it's coming. And then Telegram, I keep you guys updated on what's going on, some funny stuff, news updates, everything like that. So follow me on there as well. That's all I got. That's all we got for housekeeping. Not a whole lot to talk about. So we're going to go ahead and get rolling, and we're going to jump straight into some natural events. This past week, there has been some earthquakes. Now, there hasn't been any past couple, I would say the past month and a half, there's been a bunch of really large earthquakes. There hasn't been that many this past week, but there's been some substantially larger quakes in some interesting areas. So we're going to kind of take a look at those. We've got this past week, there was a 5.2 in Kavoy, Iran. Then there was a 5.0 in Peace River, Canada. So Canada's getting in on the shaking. 5.1 in Halabja, Iraq. 5.1 in Quamdo, China. Man, I just cannot speak these words. 6.8 in Balo, Ecuador. 5.4 in Homer, Alaska. So we got Canada and Alaska shaking over there. Then there was a 5.0 in Amsukhan, Russia. So Russia's moving as well. 5.5 in Quipos, Costa Rica. And then there's a big one that just happened a couple hours ago. There's a 6.5 in Haram, Afghanistan. That did they're rocking over there on that one. And then a 5.6 in Melipilla, Chile. I probably butchered every single one of those names, but we're going to roll with it because I can't speak all those languages. As far as volcanoes, not a thing has changed. 43 volcanoes actively erupting. That's the same as last week, all in the same regions. 6 in North America, 6 in South America, 1 in Europe, 3 in Antarctica, 4 in Africa, 16 in Asia, and 7 in Oceania. So not a change going on there. So not much to report on there. So that's what's going on with that. Now, let's take a look at what's going on with the water. There's a couple of news stories that come out about water that's quite interesting. We're going to take a look first at Minnesota. We've got Minnesota regulators on Thursday said there's cleanup of a toxic leak. So now this is Minnesota talking about a leak of toxic. There's over 400,000 gallons of radioactive water from Xcel Energy Monticello nuclear power plant. That is a mouthful right there. But over 400,000 gallons of radioactive water. This took place about 35 miles from Minneapolis, and it does run downstream towards the Mississippi River. Now, the leak was first discovered in November of last year. This leak was first discovered November of last year, and we're just now learning about it this Thursday. Xcel reported the leak to state and federal authorities in November, but did not make it public until Thursday. And of course, what do they do with all this stuff? They reassured that if there was a threat to the public, information would be immediately provided. Right. So kind of like what they did with the East Palestine explosion of the chemical train, right? Well, it's not even the explosion of the train. It was the train that derailed that they actively chose to light on fire, which they were, as we talked about that already, but they were, right when it happened, they were arresting a couple of reporters, and they didn't want any of the information to go out. But really trustworthy people. So when they say there was no threat, I'm not sure people are buying that. The leak is spreading, and I use the word spreading, via groundwater, and the Minnesota Health Department said it didn't reach the Mississippi River. Again, do we believe you? Because you've lied about all of this stuff before. Why on earth would we believe you about this? There's something very interesting going on. As of now, again, they recognized this in November. As of now, they've only got 25% of the spill recovered. So if you're in that area, I don't know. I can't say that I'm an expert on radioactive water, but I don't know. I'd probably be switching to bottled water if I was in that area. So something to keep in mind. We understand there's a lot of water and a lot of ground that is being contaminated right now. There's other aspects where it could be a land grab, because if an area is deemed too contaminated, they can just go ahead and go in and take the land. There's always that aspect that's getting brought up with this stuff. So, and then we know this affects crops as well, because if it starts poisoning the water and the land, the soil around where there's farmland, they're not going to be able to grow there. We're already seeing reports of that in Ohio and whatnot. So this is always something to keep an eye on. Definitely something to keep an eye on. Now, taking a jaunt over to Australia, we're now getting reports of millions of fish have died in the lower Darling Baca River near Menindee, Australia. I think I pronounced that right. This is not the first time this has happened, but it is the largest mass kill of fish so far. Now, there's really no way words will describe just how horrific this is. If you guys want to see what millions of dead fish looks like in a river, here's a picture. That's in Australia. All of those fish are dead. And this is not the first time that this has happened. They're saying the reason for all the dead fish is because of water level management. The last time this happened was due to a drought in 2019, so it's been a few years, but in a drought in 2019 that released an algae bloom that deoxygenated the river. Okay. This is the same reason that they're giving for this event as well, as it's there's not enough oxygen in the river and the fish are dying. Okay, I'll be upfront. I'm not educated enough to even comment on how that would work, but this doesn't sit right. Again, I'm not a scientist, but isn't like H2O, the O in that, supposed to be oxygen? How on earth would there not be enough oxygen. I don't know. Something doesn't sit right about this. This is just one of those things that's kind of setting off alarm bells. I can't sit here and say that they're doing something, but it seems that way. There's something very off about this, and that is a lot of dead fish. That is a lot of dead fish. So that's going on in Australia. Something very odd with that. So, and then finishing off water, we've got something coming out of the U.S. government. They were forced to uncensor some documents. So the U.S. government and the U.S. National Toxicology Program was forced to release censored documents detailing fluoride's impact on childhood IQ. Okay, everybody get your tinfoil. Everybody get your tinfoil. Fold it in the correct diameter that you need to place it upon your head. We are going to do a little bit of conspiracy spoiler alert watch. So one of the granddaddies of conspiracy theories is fluoride in the water. That's up there with, like chemtrails and whatnot. But one of the biggest conspiracy theories is fluoride in the water. What are they doing with it? They first it was they denied it for years, and then they finally admitted it, and they said it's for, cleansing the water and keeping it pure and all this stuff. But I think there's something going on with this, and it's very interesting that they had to uncensor these documents or declassify these documents about what fluoride does to a childhood IQ. Let's just keep this going for a second. I'll bring it around. The documents confirm previous studies that found high-level exposure to fluoride can reduce IQ in children. Okay, so now we're getting it that fluoride can reduce the IQ of children. The National Toxicology Program review from May of 2022, so last year, confirms both studies. There's two studies for this from 2019 and 2020 that said prenatal and early life exposure can affect the IQ. Now, due to a lawsuit, this document has been forced to be declassified, and the exact quote from this document says, "This review finds with moderate confidence that higher fluoride exposure is consistently associated with lower IQ in children. More studies are needed to fully understand the potential for lower fluoride exposure to affect children's IQ." So they are confirming with moderate confidence, take that with a grain of salt, that fluoride exposure can affect development of childhood IQ. So, one of the classic conspiracies is starting to gain ground. We know fluoride is in the water, and now they're saying that it can affect childhood IQ. How long has fluoride been in the water? For a very long time. We know that one of their goals all throughout time was the dumbing down of society, because if you can make people less smart, yeehaw, if you can make people less smart, reduce intelligence level, reduce IQ, start throwing in like ADHD and all this stuff, that you can easily control people much more easily. You're going to start seeing disobedience. You're going to start seeing rise of lawlessness, but bringing it down, people are going to be actively attached to big daddy government coming in and controlling their movement and what they want to do. So this seems like, I can't sit here and put my stamp of 100% approval on there, but just using my old noggin here, this seems like this would be the perfect, not the perfect, but a perfect way to push into the agenda of wanting to dumb down society. Now, this kind of goes back to an old CIA thing. Here we go. Adjust the tinfoil. Here we go. This goes back to an old CIA experiment that was a part of the MK Ultra program. Now, just a quick in a nutshell, because we're not going to go through the whole thing. If you go back to Operation Paperclip, when they brought in the CIA brought in the Nazi scientists to come in and basically bring in the occult type of stuff, the different experiments they were doing. The MK Ultra program came out, and there's different branches and different avenues of the MK Ultra program. It was all about mind control, though. That was the whole point. But there was one, it was called Operation Midnight Climax, that the CIA confirmed that there's experiments where they were putting LSD in the water for unsuspecting people, and it was to mind control them. This is just one branch of it. There's other ones where they put people to sleep for like 23 days and replayed cassette tapes, and people weren't people all of a sudden didn't know, they woke up and they didn't know who they were anymore. They were reprogrammed people, all this stuff. Well, one of the aspects was putting LSD in water to do mind control. Again, Operation Midnight Climax began in 1953 and was overseen by Dr. Sidney Gottlieb as part of the MK Ultra program. Gottlieb served as the MK Ultra director from 1953 to 73. Now, the program had to stop because the CIA never said that they stopped the program, but the guy, I can't remember his name, he shredded, he burned, got rid of all of the documents on the program, and so because of all of that information being lost, they had to stop it. Or so they say. Who says they didn't switch to putting fluoride in the water rather than LSD? It's definitely something to think about. It's something that they've been working on for a long time, and they've been doing it. Now, this all goes in accordance with the CIA's objective of altering the masses' behavior, or in this case, with fluoride, reducing intelligence. So, this is definitely something I can see being done as part of this program. And we can confirm MK Ultra did not stop, because if you look at the mainstream media, they're all given scripts. Operation Mockingbird was a part of that. So this stuff is still here. It's sick, it's twisted, it's evil, and it's occultic, and it comes from the German scientists and the CIA and all this stuff. So I could totally see the fluoride thing being a branch of Operation Midnight Climax. So definitely something to think about on that. And they're confirming it, that it does affect intelligence. So something to keep in mind on that. So that's what I got on water stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed a little trip down tinfoil lane with me. I think it's always fun. Keep in mind, conspiracy theories, I'm telling you guys, they're spoiler alerts. We're batting 900. If you don't know baseball, 1,000 is the perfect batting average. We're batting 900. We pretty much got them all. And these conspiracy theories, all these plans and stuff that everybody wants to say, you're nuts, you're coconuts, all this stuff for believing in it and whatnot. This stuff really does, like I was talking about with Pablo, this stuff really does line up with the prophetic events, because all this stuff is a part of these programs that are getting pushed towards the Antichrist beast system. So this stuff does have to do with all this stuff. Don't think you're crazy if you believe it. I mean, this stuff is real, and it does go along with prophecy, even though a lot of people might think otherwise. So definitely something to keep in mind on that. So that's what I got on WADA. WADA. So we're going to go ahead. I don't really have a segue. I try and segue this stuff. I don't really have a segue. So we're going to take a hard left turn over into technology from here. We're going to take a look at what is going on with Meta, or as you know, Facebook. Meta is the parent company for Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. So it's Mark Zuckerberg, his plan. That's where the metaverse comes from. So Mark Zuckerberg announced on Friday that paid verification for Facebook and Instagram social media accounts is rolling out in the United States. Now, they've already launched this paid verification program in Australia and New Zealand already. And the paid service provides the verified badge and impersonation protection. So basically what you do is you pay for this stuff and you get a nice little nifty badge that says, hey, I'm who I say I am. I'm verified, yada, yada, yada. Now, just like Musk's Twitter, so keep in mind when Musk bought Twitter, he introduced the same program. You might be thinking, oh, Twitter already had a verification process. They did, but it wasn't paid. You had, there were some stories that people were paying up to like $10,000, $15,000 to get verified and all that stuff. I can't sit here and confirm that, but when he came in, he offered the same thing. So Mark Zuckerberg is expanding upon that. Now you might be thinking, why are you talking about this? Hang with me. So the deal with this is you pay for it, but you must submit a photo of your government ID and have two-factor authentication enabled. So you have to send them your ID and you have to connect it to your phone number as well. So it's a whole connection process in order to do this. You can't just pay for it and get the badge. So, where this is going, we're seeing more and more social media companies introducing ways to connect you to your digital profile. Here we go. It's a soft digital ID and a preemptive introduction to submitting to social credit. So, in order to get this perk, I guess you can say, you have to then kind of sign up and pay for this soft. So not only is it even just, hey, come and get verified. No, now you're even paying to put yourself in this position. Keep in mind, Australia is introducing a bill where you have to submit 100 points of verification to the government to even access social media. So they're even starting to pursue this in a different way as far as that goes. So when you put it in these terms, we're talking about a soft version of a digital ID where you're now connecting yourself to that social media account. Now think, when they strap a social credit score upon this, they can now verify and know for sure that that is you on that social media program or account. So if you start posting stuff that they don't like, they can verify that it's you and they can start affecting your social media profile. This stuff is all rolled out in little bits like this. And you're seeing it with Facebook, you're seeing it with Instagram, you're seeing it with Twitter. I'm sure there's other ones that are or will in the future will be doing this as well. Surprised YouTube hasn't offered something like that yet. But, or maybe they have and I don't even know about it. But they are doing this. Now, there's another aspect that I do want to talk about. It's called the Lazarus Project. The name alone should get you curious. Now, the Lazarus Project. Reading a recent article by Terry James. Terry James is a good dude, by the way. Check him out. Rapture Ready. Check out his stuff, and he's got some books. I think he just wrote one with Pete Garcia, so definitely check it out. But reading a recent article by Terry James, he received some interesting news from a friend of his regarding Meta and their Project Lazarus. Now, if Terry James is vetting this and saying it's good to go, I'm going to go with what Terry James is saying on this. So just keep that in mind. That's why we're rolling with this. So some of the information that he received said, we're building an AI that can keep in mind, this is Meta, this is Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, and we just talked about how they got paid verification, so keep that in mind. The information is, we're building an AI that can take over a deceased person's social media account and continue making relevant posts as if that person were still alive. Interesting. The information continues. It says, including age-progressed photos. Age-progressed photos. What have we been seeing a lot recently as far as AI art? We've been seeing a lot of the AI art stuff, but we're also seeing a lot of AI programs that take your social media photos and change them and alter them, turn you into cartoon characters, age you, make you younger, do all this stuff. That's all playing a part in this. So including age-progressed photos, interacting with other people's content, and everything else needed so that the person continues on in the digital realm after physical death. So something that we've been talking about that the WEF and the elites and what these guys want to do is they're trying to figure out a way to continue on after death digitally. They're talking about uploading people's minds and personalities and biometric data on to digital hard drives to continue to live on after death. This is part of the merging of man and machine, and we're starting to see things where they're basically going to be imitating dead people. Now, the information continues on. And it says the AI is extremely capable of impersonating people. Listen to this here. An entire island of people could go missing, and with little to no downtime, the AI could take over all of their social media, and the world wouldn't have a clue that life wasn't just continuing as usual. They're talking about how an entire island could go missing, and with this AI program to take over, everybody else in the world wouldn't have a clue that they were gone. Your mind is probably starting to come up with some very interesting things that this could be used for. The information continues. It says, but it goes to a much deeper level than a bot just reposting the current talking points. It's when we have live data. It's when we have live data on real individuals that things truly took off. It's astoundingly accurate with reproducing real information. Something that we have been talking about a lot is digital twins. This is something that I have been hammering home because I want people to understand digital twins and what they are. Now, we know that they've got their sim programs, their simulation world programs where it's real live data mixed with biometric data, and they're using the Internet of Things technology to collect all of this. All your Ring stuff, your Alexa stuff, your Siri stuff, all your smart stuff, everything is all recording and getting your biometric data, your vocal tones, how you speak, your personality, eye retina scans, how you move. It's getting all this stuff and it's putting it in this program. And now we're seeing Project Lazarus is now tapping into that, and it's able to withdraw that information and now reproduce you on social media. This is the absolute evil and satanic progression that they're pushing this technology forward, and they're using all of this stuff to reproduce you. Now, what on earth could they use this for? What could they, I mean, honestly. Now, I wasn't going to play this video, but I have it here, so I might as well go ahead and do it. This is about a minute clip. If you joined me and Tom when we were talking about the CERN Sparks Serendipity Forum, there was the neo-biological revolution and stuff like that. But there was a video that we didn't get to where somebody is talking about digital twins. I just want to go ahead and throw this up. I'm glad I have it. So check this out, about a minute long. Check it out.
So another topic that you've been writing about and talking about is digital twins. Explain what you mean and how that relates to health.
Well, in the same way that your genome really represents your program, we're leaving more and more digital information in our lives today, whether it's our emails, our social media, et cetera, et cetera. All of that information can be gathered and collected to make a very good digital representation of you, almost a digital twin. This can go down at a systems level, your whole body, if your body's been scanned, right down to the cellular level today, which you can think of as a virtual twin of a living cell, which is now increasingly testable. So these digital twins, or you can think of them as avatars, are going to become much more important for understanding an individual, their health, their development, their metabolism, and so on. So this is going to be, I believe, one of the main applications of AI analysis and the incredible amount of digital information that we're collecting about each other.
Yeah, so as you can see with this, I mean, this is CERN talking about this. I know a lot of people want to say, oh, Meta, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, really? That's CERN. So if you're not going to roll with the possibility of Mark Zuckerberg and his weird alien fish-looking face pushing this stuff through, that's straight from a source that we know is really wrapped up in all of this stuff. We know that for a fact. And they're talking about digital twins. And if CERN is talking about digital twins, then we need to be talking about this. And he talked about it, your email, your social media, and then he said breaking it down to your cellular level. And I've talked about this before, the Ancestry.com and all that stuff. When you send in your DNA, of course, there was the 2020 swabs. That's what that was for. That was for gathering cellular level DNA and putting it into your DNA or your digital twin. This is what's going on. And now Project Lazarus is going to be tapping into that for when people start disappearing, dying, however you want to put it. They can keep the memories and the personalities rolling. Now, some of my thoughts on this. Connecting an ID to a social media account could very easily connect that account to your stored digital twin data, enabling easy takeover of AI posting. What I'm talking about is when you sign up for the verified stuff and you get your photo scanned in, you're now creating that digital ID that is confirming who you are, and it can now tap into, and it can positively tap into your digital twin and start withdrawing that data so it can now be reposting for you on Project Lazarus. Right now it's voluntary. I could totally see this being forced later via digital IDs. We're already seeing in Australia that you're having to, in order to even access social media accounts, you have to do this. Well, digital IDs is just going to be that final version where you're going to have to do it. And it's going to do that. This is just another testing phase. This is just another way to get people going. Another thought that I have for this is, for a short period of time, this AI could conceal mass death and or disappearance on a wide scale level. There's some people that might be thinking when the rapture happens, this could be playing a part. I could see that happening for a total of maybe 5 minutes, if 5 minutes at that. When the rapture happens, I tend to believe that the world is really going to know right off the bat something ain't right. Could it be a factor? It could be. We don't know, but I don't see for that. I could see it for wiping out whole areas, though, and then making it just seem like life is going as normal. I could definitely see that as well. But the Lazarus Project could easily connect to the metaverse as well, or something similar. So I know the metaverse really isn't doing all that hot, but they could have something else going on in the background that we don't know about. So the Lazarus Project could easily connect to that, and it would turn your digital twin into a never-dying avatar within the matrix that they would plug you into, and nobody would know that you vanished. So if you happen to die in the real world, but everybody's living in this metaverse world, and Project Lazarus continues on being you in this digital world, nobody would have a clue that you disappeared, and life would just continue to go on as normal. So that's also another aspect of this that should be thought about as well. So there's some very interesting things going on with this. Again, this is some information that Terry James is getting from a close friend of his that he trusts, that he believes on this. So I'm rolling with Terry on this one because I have trust in Terry as well. Sticking with technology, something to keep in mind. I just want to throw this in here. Now we're getting reports that Microsoft just laid off their AI ethics team. That's right. They just laid off their AI ethics team during their last round of layoffs, where they just laid off another 10,000 employees. The ethics team was responsible for their responsible innovation toolkit, which guided the Microsoft engineers to forecast, find, and fix harmful advancements in open AI technology. So they just got rid of the guys that their job was to make sure that the AI like ChatGPT, which they just launched GPT-4, which, I mean, you can even create whole movies in those in that thing now. Yeah, you can. It's no longer just, hey, write me a paragraph or a book or something. Now you can create whole movies, visual effects, acting, voice, everything can all go through it. Well, their job was to find and report things that the AI should not be doing, and they just laid them off. Something very, very off with this. This team, again, was just terminated right before the release of GPT-4. This is getting interesting. You've got GPT-4, which is doing this. And we just talked about organoid intelligence last week. And then NVIDIA, they just announced yesterday that they are expanding upon their quantum supercomputer, which we know all of this technology is probably going to need something as powerful as a quantum computer, probably strapped in with organoid intelligence as well. So we're seeing danger as far as this AI goes. And as we know, a lot of people want to say, oh, it's going to be, what is not sentient, but I can't think of the word I can't think of the word right now. But people want to talk about how it's going to basically surpass and take over humans. Christians, we understand that this stuff is going to be used for the Antichrist, and firm belief demonic possession is going to take over. So this is definitely not a good place to be as far as what's going on with this AI stuff, for sure. So that's what we got going on as far as AI goes. You guys doing all right? You guys hanging with me? I know we've just been kind of jamming through this. Like I said, there's a lot to get through. Thank you, Farah. Singularity. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. For some reason, that word, I can never think about it. This has been multiple weeks in a row that I just can't think of that word. Singularity. Thank you. All right. Glad you guys are still holding on with me. All right. That's as far as technology goes. Now let's go ahead and get into what's going on with this FedNow stuff, with the CBDC and all this stuff. So like I said, there is this, there's some misunderstanding as far as FedNow. A lot of people are saying that's the CBDC. It's coming in July. It's not. FedNow is not the CBDC, but we'll get into that in a second. FedNow, right after the bank collapses that have been going on, Silvergate, Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, and the merger with Credit Suisse and UBS. Right after this stuff started happening, the Federal Reserve came out and said they are launching FedNow in July. Now, it's important to understand this is not the CBDC. Basically, what FedNow is, FedNow will enable all financial institutions, tiny to giant, all of them, in the U.S. to have instant digital payment services regardless of size or location, 24/7, 365. Now, a lot of people might be thinking, we have that now. We don't actually. That's why some of this stuff, when you see ACH transfers and stuff, sometimes it could take several days. Some banks, they have to verify it themselves in person, and if they're not open on the weekends, it could take, you put in something on Friday and it won't process or come in until Monday. This stuff, it's not all instant, but what they want to do is they want to make this instant, no matter the size, no matter the location in the United States, because it's for FedNow, obviously. And it's going to go 24/7, 365. Doesn't matter if it's a holiday or weekend, middle of the night, doesn't matter. It's going to do it. And so that's what this program is being used for. Using FedNow, you can send and receive payments any time of the day with access to funds instantly. While some entities like Visa and MasterCard have come up with like Band-Aid solutions similar to FedNow, this system will be put under the whole umbrella. So all financial institutions, credit cards, all these programs, they will all work under this program. You have to, these institutions have to sign up for it, but guaranteed they're all gonna sign up for it eventually. That's gonna happen. We know it's gonna happen because when that one world currency comes into play, they're gonna have to be a part of it. So we know it's gonna happen eventually. So if you add in the fact with this FedNow program, you add in the fact that Swift is currently building the beta version of their CBDC connector, their sandbox. They've done 2 recent tests with this. They did 2 rounds of testing, which 18 central banks and commercial banks sent through $5,000 worth of CBDC to CBDC transfers and CBDC to fiat transfers. Now, this is cross-border. So FedNow is just for the United States. What the Swift is working on is cross-border stuff. It's about CBDC to another CBDC. So if one country has one version and another country has another, it can do that. But it can also be if one country has CBDC and you're trying to transfer it to the other country's fiat, it's also doing that. They've done 2 rounds of testing, both successful, running very smooth. And now they're going out of the testing phase into a beta phase, which is still testing, but it's the next level of it. And they're going to do it. So if you take that SWIFT program and connect the FedNow service to it, you've got a beast of a global digital currency connector. You're going to start seeing this with more and more countries doing the same thing, all connecting up under the same umbrella. And so this is going to be the future of CBDC, where I've even talked about how a lot of people think there's going to be maybe one coin. Well, with this program, you could literally have every country have their own version of a CBDC, and they can all work as one currency under this type of blockchain technology. So it's something to keep in mind as far as that goes. I'm not saying that's what it's going to be. I'm just saying that is a possibility on this. Plus, we know that the Bank of International Settlements is heavily involved with connecting the world with central bank digital currencies. We've talked about this before. Now, the Bank of International Settlements General Manager Augustin Carstens spoke at the Monetary Authority of Singapore on February 22nd, so not too long ago, and called for a unified programmable ledger in a public-private partnership to verify CBDC's tokenized deposits and fast payment systems. Fast payment systems is your FedNow. So he's confirming what we were just talking about taking this program and hooking it up and connecting it to this unified programmable ledger. And we know programmable means we can put time limits on it, because we know China's doing that, where you have to spend the money by a certain amount of time, otherwise it disappears. So there's going to be no saving up money. You can only spend it on these items. This is a part of the mark of the beast where you won't be able to buy or sell without it. This is rolling right into that. So this is just more confirmation of what we know in prophecy, what we know in Revelation. This is what's coming. And FedNow is going to plug right in. It's just going to be a plug-in. He then calls for bringing all those systems together under one unified digital ledger. Keep in mind, when he said public-private partnership, that means connecting all private finance to government finance. That way it gives them full control. So you're talking about your bank account, if you have CashApp or something like that, talking about that and literally connecting it to the central bank ledger as well. That's your private and public partnership, combining it all together. So he's just confirming that you won't have any private finance anymore. It's going to be hooked up to Big Daddy Beast when this comes rolling in. Big Daddy Beast. I should hang on to that. That's a good one. I just patted myself on the back. Don't judge me. Don't judge me, but I did. So that's what's going on with FedNow. So I want to make sure everybody understands FedNow is not a CBDC. It is a fast payment system that will be a foundational piece to a CBDC. So if they're going to launch that in July, we know things are getting very close. And it's also very important to understand a CBDC can't function without a digital ID wallet. It needs a digital wallet to work properly. So that's going to need to come first before they actually release it. Now, that doesn't mean they can't release a wholesale version of a CBDC. There's 2 versions of a CBDC. I want to make sure everybody knows this too. There's 2 versions. There's the wholesale version, which that's what the central bank digital currencies, or that's what the central banks will use for that stuff. Then there's the retail version, which is what we would get and that we would spend at like the store or shopping and stuff like that. That's the retail version. So it's important to understand that. The retail version needs a digital ID. The wholesale can function without it. So that's important to understand as well. So that's very, very important to understand. hopefully that answers questions. Hopefully I didn't just confuse you even more on that. Sometimes I'm terrible at explaining things and I apologize, but hopefully that makes sense. So, all right. That's all I got as far as that goes. I need some water. Hold on. Okay. Let's go ahead and get rolling into the controversial stuff. Yes. Okay, so again, if you haven't seen it, I did release a Rumble exclusive. I did release a Rumble exclusive where I was talking about President Trump, Donald Trump, as he's another piece in the game. He is a part of the club. I've got some notes on some of this stuff, but I might just have to go off of my head and what the Lord wants me to talk about when we get to that point. But we're going to go ahead and roll with this. So I want to expand just a little bit more on Donald Trump and why I have this conclusion. I mean, the evidence in the video should be more than enough. But if that's not enough for you, I do want to have this thrown out there as well. So let's see here. I talked about his stuff before with the Second Amendment, him being connected to the Clintons, the stuff as far as the vitamins go, his pride and ego, his daughter's connection to the WEF and being a young global leader, all this stuff. I've talked about all this stuff. His spiritual advisor was heretic and witchcraft user, Paula White. I just talked about all that stuff. But another aspect of his connections as far as business goes. So during Trump's presidency, he had a man by the name of Wilbur Ross serve as the Secretary of Commerce. Some people might know who this guy is. I think a lot of people don't. Now, who is Wilbur Ross? Wilbur Ross is a billionaire business tycoon, an investor, and is known as the king of bankruptcy. That's his expertise. Due to being a recapitalization specialist. What that means is he's able to restructure a company's debt and equity to get them to avoid bankruptcy. So he's able to get the lowest of the low people out of bankruptcy by doing his business stuff. I'm not even going to pretend to know what all that is involved. Now, not only did Ross serve under Trump's administration, but he helped Trump avoid personal bankruptcy during 1990s. He helped them. So who is Wilbur Ross? We know what he did with the business. We know he's connected to Trump. We know Trump appointed him Secretary of Commerce, all this stuff. Why am I talking about him? Because while Ross was helping Trump, and keep in mind when he helped Trump get out of bankruptcy in the 90s, Trump's net worth was negative 1.4 billion, and Ross brought him up out of that. Well, I'm talking about this connection because Ross was the senior managing director and bankruptcy restructuring specialist at Rothschilds & Co. He's a Rothschilds guy. And he's deeply connected with Trump. Ross spent 25 years in the Rothschilds banking network and had quite the business relationship with Trump as well. So not only did he help Trump get out of debt, but Trump brought him onto the government when he was part of his administration. So this is another connection. A lot of people might think, just because he knows the guy. Well, I'm telling you, when it comes to the business world, when it comes to the political world, you don't just know somebody who's connected to another group. If you know that person who's connected to another group, you are connected to that group as well. That's how it works. People don't understand business, high-ranking business like that, not your basic mom and pop shop, but high-ranking business like that. And politics is like a mafia. It's run like a mafia. You don't just have a connection. You're connected to the family. And so when you look at this connection here, you have to understand that Trump is somehow, and we know how, connected to the Rothschilds, and we know how deep the Rothschilds go. Everybody wants to talk about Rockefeller. Well, Rothschilds are right up there with them. And so this is another connection to keep in mind as far as this goes. Guys, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, do not worship this man. Do not believe that this man is going to save everything. Right now, deception is at a point that I don't think people understand. I know as prophecy people, we talk about deception and being in the days of deception, and there's a lot of lying and a lot of stuff going, but I don't think we truly understand the supernatural aspect of the deception that is happening right now. There is so much blinding cloud around people on this stuff. And I'm not excluding myself from the party. I know there's some stuff that I'm still deceived by that I don't even know about. This is just where we're at right now. But something about this Trump man, I just don't understand why so many people get wrapped up. But we hear all the time again about so much deception, but I just don't think we get how deep it is. People who you believe you can trust really aren't who they say they are. Now, this is very important that I want people to understand. The belief that just because somebody you like says something that lines up with your beliefs does not mean that they're on your side. It's very important that we understand, and again, this is where I'm going to be piggybacking off of JD's last prophecy update. If you haven't checked it out, go and check it out. But we have to understand, just like he said, just because it's two wings attached to the same bird, it's two sides of the coin attached to the same coin. We have to understand that the bad guys aren't going to be like in a movie where, you know, it's not the guy who has the curly black mustache who's rubbing it as he's taking the hog-tied lady and laying her on the train tracks for the train to run her over. It's not that obvious. They're going to have people on both sides of the party. That's what they're going to do. And you're going to see these people, they'll say one thing out of one side of their mouth, and they'll do actions that are the opposite of what they're saying. Elon Musk still has, I don't know how many people fooled, where he'll sit there on Twitter and he'll talk about how bad the WEF is, but yet he's over here working on his brain chips. He's working on his Tesla stuff. He's got his Starlink things going on. He's a transhumanist. He's working on 5, 6, 7 different things that are all playing a part of the WEF agenda. And yet people will ignore all of that and go, he bought Twitter and he wants freedom of speech back. That's the level of deception that's going on. There's other people out there who are doing this. Donald Trump is another one. He says these things, but his actions speak much louder than those things that he's saying. And a lot of people might be thinking he did a lot of good. Well, look at it at this aspect. The bad things he did completely outweigh the good things. And if you look at the good things he did, quote unquote, all those things were so easily reversed when Biden got into office. All the good things everybody liked were that easily reversed, but all of his bad things he did, those stuck around. There is a deeper level to this that I don't think people understand. And you've got other people out there. You have to remember Tulsi Gabbard's another one. A lot of people are starting to strap on to Tulsi Gabbard because all of a sudden, Tulsi Gabbard, she was a WEF global leader. She was a part of the World Economic Forum. She was Democrat. But now all of a sudden she's a Republican on the right side saying all these things that everybody likes. Well, it's a good way to deceive people and get them following their Benedict Arnold, really. They're going to have peace. The game of chess, you have both white and black pieces. You got to have two sides. And that's what they're doing. So I really want people to understand that you have to look at the actions and you have to think a little bit more on where this stuff is going. This is a game. And the game they're playing is you. That's the important thing. The game they're playing is us. And Satan he's really playing this well because he wants us to get distracted by the fight of politics. He wants us to pick a side and then get distracted and start attacking the other side. That's one of the reasons why when I talk about all this stuff and everything, I'm not making fun of people like Newsom and Biden and Trudeau and all these people. I don't ever bring them up. I don't get them involved. I don't attack them or anything like that because it's a distraction. I don't care about making fun of that person who is a puppet. They're reading a script. They're not in control of anything. I don't think it's worth doing that. I think it's worth looking at the plan that's being put into place instead that does have to do with the prophetic events that we know are going to be happening in Scripture. That's why I think it's so important that we need to not get wrapped up in attacking these people. And then there's the aspect of, well, when you do talk about politics, you're always going after the right-wing guys. I am, because majority, not all, but majority of Christians are conservative and they're on the right side. They declare to be Republicans, and I think they're the most duped. So I think it's more important to talk about them more often. I hope this is making sense. There's a game being played, and it's us. And Satan is playing it very, very well, because I don't know how many church sermons, Christian podcasts, chat forums I've seen where people take more time explaining why they like a certain politician and attacking another one when there's much more important things that we could be talking about. So that's my aspect, because I know a lot of people, they make their money off of this stuff. And just like the title of this thing, Show Me the Money. We've talked about the Fed Now stuff. We've talked about the Wilbur Ross and Trump stuff. And we're going to be talking about this. The money in politics and being a political commentator makes you bank. So here's an aspect that I don't think people understand. When it comes to like where I'm at in the position that I do this, and all the other guys that you guys watch, fantastic people. I watch them too. Like I was just on with Pablo. But there's some Christian commentators where their whole goal is to talk about politics because it is a money maker. It is a view creator. It is a mass following subject because everybody's got an opinion on politics, and they're going to tune into the people that say what they want to hear. Remember when I said just because somebody says they have a belief that lines up with yours doesn't mean it's always true. There's money to be played. That's why I warn of things like Fox News. They're still mainstream media. They know what they're doing. Newsmax is another one. I'd even throw in somebody like Tucker Carlson, even though he's saying a lot of the stuff that we like. There's a reason why he's in that position. It's important that we understand that. He makes a lot of views, a lot of eyeballs, and a lot of money. There's a game to be played. Guaranteed, I could have a lot more people watching this show in 2 months' time if I switched to just talking about politics. I'm not going to do it, but I'm just letting you know. There's a game to be played. There's money to be made with this. Just like it's the same thing as what's going on in the church. Just like Joel Osteen, Kenneth Copeland, and Benny Hinn. People wonder how can all these people follow them and just throw gobs and gobs of money, backing up the Brinks truck. Why? Because they say what people want to hear. They say things that make them feel good, that line up with their beliefs. They say things that people want to hear. It is the same thing going on in church as far as that goes. That's why you see mega churches like Bethel, Hillsong, and Elevation. They're saying a lot of positive stuff that people want to hear. They're ear tickling. We know that's something in Scripture that's going to happen in the last days. People are going to want their ears tickled. They don't want truth. They want fables. It's the same thing. And the same game that's being played in church, just like Scripture tells us, is also being played as part of the political game as well. So it's very important that we understand that. Same goes again for the commentators on politics. They say what people want to hear, and the money will flow. So here we go. Piggybacking off of JD here, let's take a look at this Thrive Time Reawakening show that JD was talking about. Now, right off the bat, JD didn't show this. I want to show this. Have you guys seen the people who are running this show? Those are the guys running the Thrive Time Reawakening Tour, where they say it's the Bible versus the Great Reset. I'm not sitting here making fun of these people, but I want to let you guys know my warning alert, my warning alarm is going off. There's something unsettling about this. You've got super happy, looks like he's jacked up on uncut Colombian cocaine over there on the left with Dr. Robert Zollner. And then you've got Ray Clark there, who looks like he's a devious devil type of person. There's something off about this. Something's not right. Maybe it's just me. I don't think so. I don't know. There's warning sirens when I look at that. That's on their website. That's on their promotion. When you want to find out who those people are, those are the pictures they chose. There's something weird. You've got the happy-go-lucky, and then you've got the devil. That's that good and evil thing. Something's not right. There's something not right there. So those are the people that are throwing this thing. Now, let's talk about some of the speakers. I'm not going to go over the exact same stuff JD did. That'd just be pointless. He did a much better job than I could have doing that. So again, make sure you go and you check that out. Let's just go down some of these speakers. I'll point out some people that I think are interesting. One is Charlie Kirk. I know a lot of people like Charlie Kirk. I know Charlie Kirk does a lot of stuff with Jack Hibbs. Now, I'm not attacking Jack Hibbs. Calm down, people. I'm not attacking Jack Hibbs. But Charlie Kirk is always somebody that something throws me off about him. It's always been that way. He seems to have a piranha type personality where he seems, and I'm not saying he is, this is just my opinion and how the sense that I'm getting from this. So just calm down. I know I'm already going to get emails. But he seems to prey upon Christians and churches. If you ever look at his social media, if you ever look at the videos that he does, he was full on with the Trump train stuff and everything. He's a political dude, but yet he seems to have found a market. I think that's the best way to put it. He seems to have found a market in the Christian churches to get people to watch, follow, and donate to his programs. Now, that's just the sense that I get from it. So I don't know. You guys roll with your own discerning. We have to use discernment on that. So just something to think about. And I saw in the comments, Dr. Z there is dead. It is important to understand this reawakening tour. This is like the third or fourth one that's been done. So I think they have some old speakers listed on here. So something to keep in mind. Then we've got Owen Schroyer, who's an InfoWars journalist. I'm here to let you guys know InfoWars is not your friend. They say a lot of stuff that people like. And I'm not saying that there's not some truth coming from there, but I would avoid InfoWars. So you've got an InfoWars journalist there. Of course, Robert F. Kennedy. He's on there. Chad Prather. He's connected to Blaze Media. Blaze Media. That's with Glenn Beck. I'm not saying they don't have bad information, but keep in mind, Glenn Beck is a Mormon. So something to keep in mind as far as that goes. Big one that I want to point out here, page 2, Sean Foich. I talk about him with the NAR movement, with music, musicians to avoid. Sean Foich is on here. He comes from Bethel. Sean Foich is a Bethelite, and we know what comes out of Bethel. This is very important to understand. Reawakening. Awake, becoming awake, waking up the nation. It's been hijacked. It's not what biblical awakening is. It's taken on a new meaning. The NAR has hijacked it. It is the belief of kingdom now and dominion theory. Keep in mind, a lot of these people that you see on here are going to have the mindset that we can win this country back, that we can make this country great again. We can make America great again. We could change the world. We can get it back. This is lining up with kingdom now and dominion. It's important that we understand the spiritual aspect of this. And Sean Foich is right in the middle of that. He's going to be leading worship at these events. It's important that we understand that. Then we've got Mike Lindell, My Pillow dude, fully on board with Trump. Michael Flynn. Michael Flynn is heavily I don't know if he's still pushing it, but he was heavily pushing the Q movement. We'll talk about that in a minute. Roger Stone, all connected to Trump's presidency and all that stuff. Then you got Mickey Willis. He was the creator of a specific movie. I don't even know if I can say the name of the movie, but it has to do with something that happened in 2020, and it has to do with planning it. It was a very famous movie when it came out. I'm sure you're kind of catching the drift of where I'm going with that. Let's move on. Eric Trump, he's last name should give it that. Ian Smith is kind of interesting that people weren't paying attention to. Ian Smith was the New York gym owner who was arrested for staying open during the lockdowns in 2020. It's interesting that he's a part of that. Here we go. Q, big name. People might not recognize his name. They'll recognize his website. Mike Adams. Mike Adams, his information likes to get thrown around a lot on prophecy websites, prophecy conversations and stuff like that. Dude runs Natural News. This dude was one of the leading guys for the Q movement, that where one goes, we all go type of thing, where every month they came up with a new way that Trump was going to get out of his trouble and then retake the office and everything. They actually just released a new one where he was supposed to get arrested today, and that was the plan for the military to come in, take over, and then put Trump back in the office. Mike Adams was one of the leading guys as far as the Q movement, and he is, if you ever look at his stuff, he will take the smallest bit of information and stoke fear and sensationalism out of it like you would not believe. He's a part of the Natural News stuff. He has his own podcast. A lot of prophecy guys quote his stuff. I'm telling you, that dude is bad, bad, bad news. Avoid him. I can't begin to tell you how much to avoid him. Then you've got Sidney Powell. We know about Sidney Powell. She was a part of the Trump stuff. She also was a pusher of the Q movement as well. Keep in mind, with the Q movement, it's a psyop, but something that they were talking about was the awakening, the Great Awakening. That was something that they were pushing. There's going to be a Great Awakening across not only the United States, but the world. What is this tour called? The Reawakening Tour. Again, it's been hijacked. There's something very devious going on behind this thing. Now, I'm not saying every single person on that list is not an unsaved Christian that's sending people. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is this movement, this tour is there, a part of this whole awakening stuff. And it's not right. Let's keep this rolling. Dr. Simone Gold, we know her from the Frontline Doctors group. She was one of the leaders when 2020 that stuff was going on. We can't really get in further than that. Peter Navarro. This dude is interesting. He served on the Trump administration alongside Wilbur Ross. He also helped create the United States-Mexico-Canada trade deal, which we know that. Yeah, well, I'm not going to get into that, but you can look it up if you haven't taken a look at that. So we know he's heavily involved with that. Del Bigtree, he's a massive political commentator. He's got a lot of podcast stuff out there. You can look into him. You may not recognize his name, but the face sure looks familiar. I'm sure you've seen it on a compilation clip somewhere. He's a part of that as well. Let's keep it moving. Who else we got? We got Carrie. I never can pronounce her last name. Madej, I think that's how you pronounce it. She was also a part of the 2020 stuff and what was going on with the vitamins and everything. She does a lot of work with Mike Adams. Here's the boy that I want to point out. I'm not even going to call him pastor. I'm just going to call him Greg Locke. This is the guy. I've talked about him in the past before. He was the guy that had an affair, divorced his wife, and married his secretary. He claims kids with autism are demon-possessed. He says that he can talk to demons and he's able to see angels. This dude is warped. The dude is warped. And I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe his church actually hosted one of these awakening tours. Then we've got Alex Jones. I believe that's on the next page. There he is. Alex Jones. Again, he's somebody that, I mean, he's pointed out a lot of information, but something about him screams psyop. I can't sit here and confirm it. I'm just telling you, I get the willies when I see his stuff. I'm not saying he hasn't been wrong or hasn't been right on a lot of things. I'm not saying that, but something, I don't know, just doesn't sit right with me. I could be the only one. I don't know. Again, I'm not going to sit here and confirm that he's a bad dude. Just saying. It's important that we understand where these people come from. I also find it interesting that he just went through that lawsuit where he had to file bankruptcy and not a thing has changed. He's still doing his regular show like nothing ever changed. Just something interesting there. I think that's everybody on that page. Go to this one. Yep. Nick, another name I can't ever say. Nick Juicy. I don't know. I've actually seen this dude live. An old church actually invited this dude to come and speak to the youth. I've seen this dude live before. If you haven't seen him before, he has no limbs. He has no arms and legs. He's mainly a motivational speaker. I can't say I know much about his faith or anything. I just find it interesting that he's on this. I think that's it for that one. Let's move over to this one. Yeah. Sam Sorbo, wife of Kevin Sorbo. Kevin Sorbo has done some good movies, but he's also done some questionable movies as well. We know he's connected to the Hollywood era. Always be wary. I'm not saying he's a bad dude. Just always be wary of those who come from the Hollywood era. I'm just saying. Mike Smith. I believe he's on the next page, right? Yeah. Mike Smith is a name that, or a face that you might not recognize. He's a former Hollywood stuntman. He was mentored by a spiritual guide that likes to call herself Christian, but what she talks about is not very Christian. It's all wrapped up in the New Age stuff. You might recognize him from a small documentary that he put out called Out of Shadows, not Out of the Shadows. Don't get those confused. Out of Shadows, where he did a lot of talk about Hollywood, the CIA programs, pedophilia programs. I'm not going to mention on here just because of YouTube. Yeah, just an interesting connection. And then last but not least, you got Artur Pawlowski. You might recognize him during the lockdowns. He kept his church open, but he was the one, he's a pastor that was screaming at the police, calling them Nazis and stuff like that. He was arrested several times. It's interesting, guys. It's interesting. Also take note, 14 pastors are on the list of speakers as well. 14 pastors. So again, I don't want to sit here and call all these people evil people and whatnot. I'm just letting you know these people are getting wrapped up in something that is following the Kingdom Now stuff, if you want to get biblical with it, with the awakening and all that stuff, the Q movement, the Great Awakening. This is the reawakening. We saw the people that were putting it on. We know that there's money in following and a game to be played here. We know this to be fact. We know this is what's going on. Now, there's another aspect that I found on their website where the Thrive Time podcast, and they talked about how they had some guests on the podcast. One of their guests is Ben Shapiro, Daily Wire. And if you don't know Daily Wire, yes, they do put out some good news. I've referenced them before. But they are fully wrapped up in the whatever can make them the most money game. I'm telling you, the stuff that I've seen, that's what they do. But they had Ben Shapiro on there. A lot of people like Ben Shapiro. A lot of people don't. I understand that. Ben Shapiro accidentally showed his cards not too long ago. Let's just take a look. So previous Thrive Time podcast guests include Ben Shapiro. Here's a couple of tweets from Ben Shapiro, some from 2021 and one from the 1st of February of this year. They have been deleted since then. I'm not going to read them just because I just want to be careful. But yeah, you should be able to see, and there's a little black square on one of them. He used God's name in vain, and I didn't want to show that. So that's what that censor is. I put that there. He kind of revealed his cards there and where he stood with something, kind of like what Trump did. I'm going to give you guys just a little bit more time to read if you haven't got it. He's clearly promoting something. And he says against the mandates, just like Trump. But he was all for the thing, just like Trump. It's interesting. I might take that off just in case YouTube might hit me for that. Hopefully YouTube doesn't hit me for that. If not, follow me on Telegram. I will let you know that we'll be streaming on Rumble next week. But yeah, guys, there's a game. There's a game to be played. There's this idea that what we can beat what's coming. There's this I don't know how many Christians I've run into where I've warned them about the prophetic events that are happening, and they said, yeah, but we need, and this is the biggest thing that I hear, and we have to understand the context of it. We are called to occupy until he comes. When you put it in terms of fighting the political fight, now I'm not saying, fighting for the abortion stuff and the transgender stuff. I'm not saying that's bad. I think we need to do that. I do. But occupy until he comes, the context of that is to occupy the world until he comes with the gospel. We are to occupy with the good news until he comes. We cannot take that out of context to fit the narrative of fighting a political game. That makes us no better than these political commentators that use Bible scripture taken out of context to prop up their platform. We cannot do that. We are to occupy with the gospel until he comes. And like I was saying on Pablo's podcast, all throughout history, God gives certain generations certain commands during certain periods of time. Our commands in this blessed generation where we know the rapture is right around the corner. Not date setting. Make sure that people don't accuse me of that. But we know we're a part of this time when it's coming, and he can come at any minute. Our goal, what we're commanded to do by Jesus, is to warn of people what is coming and to get the gospel out to everybody that we possibly can. Our goal is not to make America great again. Our goal is not to prepare the world for Jesus Christ to come with kingdom now, dominion theory. Our goal is not to reawaken or have a great awakening of anything. We know the revival is going to happen on the other side. There's going to be a great falling away. People are going to be deceived now more than ever in the history of ever. We cannot take that stuff out of context, and we have to understand what our goal is here. Again, I'm not saying not to stand up to fight against the abortion and the transgender stuff and the trafficking stuff and stuff. I'm all for that. But what I am saying is we cannot let that be the distraction. We cannot walk out of the bleachers and put ourselves into the game of what Satan wants us to get distracted with. It's important that we understand what is going on with this stuff. It's extremely important. Now, again, questions. Why are we to waste our time fighting to get Trump back? If we know America has to fall, if you're going to sit there and you've been watching prophecy and you know where we're at on the timeline of things, why on earth would you be wasting your time trying to get Trump back in office? Especially since what we know about Trump now. That's a waste of time. All that time fighting and most likely the crowd that you're talking to is the ones that need to hear the gospel. Are you really going to waste your breath and the limited opportunity to turn them off to talk about Trump stuff and political stuff when you could be sharing the gospel with them? I don't think that's a good waste of time. I just don't. Why should we focus our time and energy on trying to stop what we know is coming? We know what's coming. It's important that we understand what we need to be doing in these times. And we cannot be distracted and play this game. We have to, discernment even comes in line with this. Satan is playing a game and he wants you to be one of the pieces. Don't do it. And I'm telling you, 99% of the people who have a position in office in politics, not just in the United States, but all across the world. We've been seeing the WEF taking people out and putting their people in the past several years. It's been happening all over the place. All those people have a script and they're all pieces in the game. Even the ones that you think are on your side. They're not. They're not. It's very important that we understand what's going on. What we see now reeks of a massive distraction by Satan. Those leading the charge, like some of the speakers that we just went through, seem to carry the kingdom now belief. They seem to have the belief. There's some that'll shout, I'm Christian following prophecy, but we're going to sit here and win this country back. No, we're not. And then you have people like Sean Fauch, who their belief is kingdom now. It comes from Bethel. Pursuing this idea of making America great again is literally trying to fight against God's prophetic word. And I'm here to tell you, you're going to lose that one. You're going to lose that one. What's more important? Attempting to save a world that you know is on the fast track to the tribulation, or getting at least one more soul to Jesus before it's too late? That's a question you need to ask yourself. What's more important? I certainly hope you are picking the right choice on that one. And if you don't know the Lord right now, something that we always end with on this is the ABCs of salvation. If you went through this and maybe something in you finally clicked and you get it, you understand what's going on, you had a question answered, you understand what's going on, and you have a desire to be saved, to be a part of the family of Jesus. It's a simple gift. It's done by the grace of God through his son, Jesus Christ. It's as simple as A, B, C. A is you admit that you're a sinner, the first step to truly believing that you need a Savior. The first step to truly believing that you need Jesus Christ is the simple act, the first act of repentance, which is, I'm not good. I have sinned. I need Jesus. That's admitting that you're a sinner. That's the first step of repentance. The second step of repentance comes afterwards when the Holy Spirit comes in you and then your life transforms. There's two steps to it. First step is admitting. You admit that you're a sinner. The second step is B, you believe that Jesus is who he says he is, and he did what he said he did with all of your heart. Jesus Christ is the one and only Son of God who came down, 100% man, 100% God, lived the perfect life, died on the cross for your sins, for my sins, and then rose again on the third day. He defeated death for us. And just like Paul says, death, wear out thou sting. Through Jesus, we have the ability and the right to taunt death because it's been defeated already for us. So you believe that Jesus is who he is, and he did what he did. And then C is to call upon the Lord. When you say that prayer, when you ask the Lord to come into your life, you say, Lord Jesus, come into my life and save me. It's that simple. It's a simple gift. It's not through works. We can't lose it. We are sealed with the Holy Spirit the moment we accept Jesus Christ as our Savior. And he ain't leaving us. And I'll tell you what, Holy Spirit is, yeah, he's good. He's good. So get to the Lord. Get to the Lord, guys. That's all I got, guys. That's all I got. Glad you guys could stick with me. Glad you guys are here. Glad we made it. We didn't go too far over time, just a couple minutes. But yeah, so that's all I got going on. hopefully that answers some questions. Hopefully this was a little bit different. I usually don't do the whole thing like we did at the end. I'm more of just a news and information guy and all that stuff. But sometimes we got to change it up. Sometimes we got to do some different stuff. So glad you guys are here. Glad you guys could join me. I know I had some new guys coming over from Pablo. Appreciate you guys. Yeah, so if you can, if you haven't, check out Pablo's recent podcast. It was a lot of fun being with him. I appreciate it. I'm going to get him on this channel too. So don't worry. Pablo will be joining me at some time. Not sure when, but he'll be joining me at some time. We talked about that afterwards. And then also, if you make sure you check out JD's latest prophecy update that he put on Sunday, make sure you go to his website, jdfarag.org. Check it out there, full uncensored. The dude, he says what needs to be said. We're in a time right now where people like to kind of beat around the bush and sugarcoat some stuff, but with the timeline of where we're at now, things just need to be said. Even if people don't want to hear it and it's hard to hear it, it needs to be said. Doesn't matter if it's coming off aggressive in some way. If it's done in love, then that's the important part. And sometimes you just got to say what needs to be said. Just like that. Just like creamy peanut butter is better than crunchy peanut butter. Fight me. Sometimes you just got to say what needs to be said. So, yeah, usual spiel though. Like, share, subscribe. Get this out to as many people as you can. Again, it's not about butts and seats. It's not about getting views and all that stuff. It is about getting the gospel out to people and warning people what is going on. So if you can, like, share, subscribe, do all that. Follow me, Rumble, Odyssey, Telegram, Rumble and Odyssey, my backup channels. When YouTube decides to kick me off, Telegram, I put out news stuff. Sometimes I put funny stuff and hymns and stuff on there. So follow me on there. It's always good. And if YouTube does kick me off or strikes me or something, I will let you guys know what's going on there. So that's important to keep track of that. And then if the Lord places it upon your heart, if you'd like to support this ministry, I do have donation links down below: CashApp, Venmo, and Give, Send, Go. I definitely appreciate that more than you know. Yeah, so that's all I got on that, guys. I'm glad you guys could join me. Glad you guys could be here. I'm going to go take a long sleep, and hopefully tomorrow I feel better. So I'd appreciate your guys' prayers as far as that goes. So I'm going to leave you guys here. Thank you guys for joining me. And if the Lord has not come back by next Tuesday, same time, same place, join me here. All right, guys. Peace out.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.